Mine's almost ran out, okay? My battery thing is starting to fall apart. Okay. Are you good back there? Are we live and in action? Okay. Yeah, remember I kept them here for you. Okay, today is Wednesday, October 21st. I want to get chapter 7 started before we have any battery problems. I can't stop thinking waddle waddle. You guys won't know what that means. Okay, chapter 7, democracy and dissent and violence of political parties, and then it's set this on the front page of your chapter, 1788 to 1800s. But before we do that, look up here. There's your quote number 22. Once scalded, cold water seems hot. Be careful if you try that experiment. Don't make it scalding water. Just make it hot. Okay, what I want to bring up first is the word partisan politics. Partisan. Partisan politics. I know Trump has made reference to this, but this term comes up because as the journey for our new republic government gets established, we have a lot of problems of getting along and adjusting. And basically, partisan politics takes out the rule of, in our case, Democrat, Republican, and we're going to get together and do something that's good for everyone, and not just us or our party. So it's where both sides are agreeing to compromise, give in. And this is in the political realm now. To vote for something or to establish something for the good of all in this country, in our country, in early American history here. And they found that hard to do. Guess what? That's been happening all along with what's been going on in our current political scene is having that. And of course, at the start of the chapter, they talk about that a little bit. And what happens is people get in a habit of who's in control, who has the power. And now, how to put all this new government into practice was the next issue, number 2. What happened is, in most cases, the public figures that had money, position, power, considered power, good speakers, could orate themselves and vocalize themselves really well. That, without even practice. Some people can just speak better, and I know a lot of people can speak better than me and put things in a little more better way and better language and better grammar and all that, but I just can't do that. But that's what happens here in the new American Republic. Now, our first president, George Washington, was one of the opposites. He wasn't a very good public speaker, but he surrounded himself with some that were, and some of his advisors, and to help in that situation. And of course, they didn't have a thing like this, where I don't know if you're aware of it. A lot of the speeches you see, and they're looking at you, but they look through this plexiglass. All the words are right here in the speeches as he reads it or as she reads it. That way, they don't have to refer down to their notes all the time, and it looks like they're saying it. And they practice speaking that way, so it's more of a natural thing. And it works in some cases, and some people are just really good at it. Now, and when you have this conflict, so to speak, going on, you have to be aware that people are going to pick sides naturally. Liz is going to pick a side that makes her probably a little bit more comfortable, but I think Liz is the type of individual that would say, hey, wait a minute. You know, this is not entirely me, but I like what you say. And then over here is another person that's my political rival, and she likes some of the things that this person says. And she can take in the info from both and then come up, which one will I favor? And so this is what immediately happens. Even though George Washington is the president, there were two different sides going on. I don't know if you understand that, I hope. Now, when this occurs, there's these two people stand out. Alexander Hamilton and what was Jefferson's first name? Good, somebody's awake. Thomas Jefferson. They represent their country. They're not presidents yet, but they have food for thought for the whole republic. And so people naturally joined one side or the other. So here we go. Hamilton's side of the fence was called the Federalists. Okay, they believed the Federalists were the people that had more wealth, more education, more polish, well-mannered, well-spoken, all that. And they thought that world trade and all the things that go with it, because most of them were business owners and landowners, that this is the way that country should be controlled. And of course, guess what that leaves out? The middle class, as we would call it today, or the hardworking middle class, like farmers. So now Jefferson's side, and they weren't given a name yet other than anti-federalists. Later they become, the one I just finished or was talking about was Jefferson's, and they were the Federalists. Okay, now Jefferson's side of the fence were the anti-federalists. Yeah, I got it. Sorry about that. Hamilton was the Federalist. Jefferson was the anti. Woo! Thank you. Too much coffee. But they were fighting for the common man, the farmer. Jefferson was a farmer, by the way. And but in order for this republic to work and the virtues of it, you know, they needed to have a voice in there too. And so here's where the debate comes in as these two sides meet in Congress. They're not able to, almost everything was political. And by the way, before I say this, they wanted to make sure that laws and taxation laws did not harm the farming side of the picture. I don't know if I made that clear for Jefferson. In other words, if you take this group over here of Hamiltons, they're willing to do anything at the expense of the farmer or Jefferson's side. So you got a clear enough picture, I hope. Now, when they got together, my battery's just run dead. There's one light came on and off, so it's going dead. Okay, sorry. Okay, so I just turn it off. Do you have to turn that off? I'm helpless. It's starting to blink and fade. Okay. Okay, we got green lights again, and we're going to check the camera and where we were leading off at. Everything okay? All right. We were still talking about the division, but as the Jeffersonians and Hamiltonians, how's that, got together in Congress, they had some issues, and as they debated the issues, they always seemed to argue, and neither side was willing to compromise at first. But guess what? Another group comes into the picture, and it actually is John Adams, who is the vice president at the time to George Washington. He steps up and says, "Hey, you guys are forgetting what got you here. We're not talking about the war. We're talking about public opinion is vital. You got to worry about public opinion and doing the right thing for the public than just your party or your side and your side. You're over here fighting for the common man. You're over here fighting for the rich. We got to do it together." And John Adams says, in order to get things done, you've got to always look at what the public opinion wants. And you guys, I think you saw this already in our current issues that are going on. What do the people really want? Whose polls are we going by? Why do we need polls? Well, it's a little bit form of reinforcement, but how accurate are they? The last election in 2016, Trump was behind in every poll, pretty much every poll, but not a whole bunch, and Trump was not supposed to win. But when it came out, he won both sides. He won the public opinion side, and he won the electoral college side, and he got things. That's how, basically how he got elected. Now, you got to realize this one thing. By the time John Adams steps in and the two other sides this goes on for about 10 years. We're not getting much done. We're not getting out of debt. We're not refinancing and growing like we should have been. And what happens is somebody like John Adams and other people says, well, we need to set up a way to get this done. And in order to get this done, we need to create and have more people in the middle of this picture. And this is where they get this first cause. The first Congress, this is what they call the first, not Continental Congress, but the first Congress of the new republic, gets together and establishes some more departments, more people to push and kind of control the president or control the president's, whichever president now, as you're going to see down the road, becomes the new president, not Washington. He has his favorites, and then hopefully someday we'll have a female president. She'll have her favorites, and they'll surround themselves with these type of people. So first thing they come up with as the argument as they start to learn to do things together was create a strong executive department. And then your executive or your president has got to have people with him, in this case, that support his ideas and are willing to take the same challenges and chances. Now, this is probably why you saw Trump fire some people and hire people, but that's a new incoming president. That's what they all do, and try to keep some people until they're not following in that path. But the key, again, is to go back, and somebody needs to do this to you and say, hey, you're out of line here, or this side, you're not headed. It's kind of like the Christian theme. Are we headed down this path for the common public people? Okay? Or are we all on this side or all on this side? And that's what we have to guard against, where, right now we're in another battle of that, of not having partisan politics where we can get together, debate it, and make the best decisions. Does that make kind of a sense of what's going on? I hope. And we're having good difficulty. Now, in the executive department, after we established President George Washington, he decides, and I'll just name three names. The department head for war is Knox. It's no biggie, but you can write it down. The state would be Jefferson, and the treasury was Hamilton. Guess what? They tried to keep those two sides in there so they could work together. Sometimes the biggest battle is admitting that you need help. Mind you of anything? Somebody in my family really needed help because they drank too much. I'm making this up. Or they were on drugs. And then for politicians, the hardest thing for them, and if you know any, just ask them. If you know anybody on city council or anything, just ask them, what's the hardest thing working on a city council or on a committee? Say you're on a church council. They have the same issues as the federal or state or even lower down. That's the hardest thing, is to take Nancy's ideas and I'm going to adopt some of those because, it's hard to say, wait a minute, I know more than you. I have more experience than you. And so this is the whole battle. And it leads, if you want to follow in the text, I just want to read a couple things, like always, but on page 86 and 87, the principles of pragmatism established a new government. George Washington in 1788 enjoyed great popularity among the nation. He was the first presidential election. He received unanimous support of the Electoral College, and it's never been done since. Never has. Probably never will be. And the person with the next amount of votes was vice president, but that will never happen again. It's always a selection made by the incoming president and their running mates, and you're seeing that now. All of you voted already, or you're still waiting? Anybody vote yet? I've already voted. None of you voted yet? Don't forget. Like Willie Nelson says, vote him out. Vote him out, not him, necessarily. Okay. Remembering the financial insecurity of the old Confederation, that's what we used to be called, the newly elected congressman passed the tariff of 1789. Get this one down. A tax approximately 5% on all imports, and I already made mention to this, and it was one of the questions you already answered, but it was such a key thing to establish financial monetary solidarity to our new republic. We could not go around asking for money in donations, because guess what happens? You are a billionaire. I'm pointing somebody in class. And Nancy has her hand up saying, well, wait a minute, I have 10 billion. So if I want some favors in my government, Nancy, I'm going to ask Nancy, hey, Nancy, how about giving us $1 billion? And you still have $4 billion. Is that enough to live on and all that? And then Nancy says, sure, but there's some things I'm concerned about, and I would like you. So we're doing partisan politics in the wrong way, Nancy and I. Yes, Nancy, got a question. About the what? Okay, it's on page 87, the paragraph right above, conflicting visions of Jefferson and Hamilton. But so technically, if you look at this, we're in a world of messes in this new government trying to figure out everything that's going on. And it's a wonder that we've gotten as far as we've gotten in the last 200 years. Now, I got to say it personally, I think we're in an era of time where they're trying to break down some of these and change again. So how far do we go? Remember last time we met, we went through some of the Bill of Rights. At what point do we take away something in order to gain something? And are we going to get back, this is my question for all of you, are we going to get back to politics where we can sit down and discuss things and look at both sides to come up with an answer instead of everybody hating, and this is true, everybody seems to hate Trump, not everybody, but there's that group after what he's trying to do and then what they want. Now, I was born and raised later as I got into politics a little bit, that no matter who was elected president, you supported him. Now, if you didn't like the president and his group of people around him that influenced him and he influenced them, then you vote him out. And then you go on to the next stage and the next individual, but you keep the common, everyday United States of American people in perspective to it. Sure, we've got the black-white issue, the brown issue. We've got insurance issues, but can't we just sit down and work something out? I'm thinking right now of Obamacare package that was established, in his 2 terms. A lot of people don't want it taken away because they're afraid of what might replace it. Will it be retroactive? Will they lose some of their coverage? You guys should be concerned about Social Security. Will it look different? Will it be the same? You all got jobs. You all work part-time, and you have to put a certain amount of money into this, this, and this. Will it still be there when you need it as a backup, let's say? I'm lucky enough that it is there. I get so much a month because I'm on Social Security. And I'm on the upper end of it because I've been contributing to it for so many more years. So is there a point in time that not me? But the point is, can 2 conflicting issues or sides of the party system get together and do what is right? Right now it's not happening very well. That's why it's such a key battle for politicians now to go in and say, okay, the Republican Party needs to control Congress, the Senate. Who has control of the House of Representatives? Who is the Speaker of the House? I don't know if you know this, but the 3rd person in line for the presidency, if anything happened to the president and the vice president, is the Speaker of the House. It's set into the Constitution. This is the pattern if something happens. And everybody knows who the Speaker of the House is. Nancy Pelosi. But anyway, no comment there. I don't want to get too political, but think about the same issues. Now, as I just mentioned to Nancy, the succession and creations of the department of, all the department heads. You guys know the judicial branch, the executive branch, et cetera, the war. All those are set up for that reason. And this is when they started doing it. Remember Monday, I think we talked about the Electoral College in review, how it was set up and it was based upon. And now they argued about, well, who counts as population so we can establish this. It's one argument after the other, but we made it through. And we kept God in the picture in our Constitution, we kept God into the picture until lately where people are saying now, okay. So Now, that leads to another series of conflicts. And if anybody read ahead, who is the second president of the United States? You can cheat, you can look. Go to page. Huh? President elections, page A15. For your information, first president, George Washington, vice president, John Adams. And then President George Washington served 2 terms, didn't he? And the next president is John Adams. I think that was a natural progression to start out with instead of new candidates coming in. How many times has Joe Biden been vice president? Obama's 2 terms, vice president to Obama 2 times in a row. Been in Congress 40-some years. He's a little bit older than Trump. Trump's 73, going on 74, I believe. And Biden's 78, something like that. But if you actually look back, how old was George Washington? He was in his 40s when he became president. We haven't had a young president since Kennedy. At the time, Kennedy was the youngest president we've ever had. And people sometimes are not, they think age has all the wisdom and experience. I'd like to have a little more youth. See, I'm a term limit guy. And I'm not trying to tell you how to vote or how to think about it, but I'm term limits that way, and I like a little mixture of youngness with a little bit of oldness and something in the middle that will help everybody. And we're getting on that journey to be a better America. So, yes. Yeah, what you heard that, right? When George Washington was president, they set up the 2-party system, Federalists and Anti-Federalists for right now.
Yeah, well, no, I meant like the term.
Oh, the length of terms?
Yeah. So then why was Franklin
He did 3.
Yeah.
There was no set terms on president.
It's just you could keep getting elected.
Now, I've always had this question. That's when they amended and put the amendment in, the president can't serve more than 2 terms. Okay, how about this? Let's say Kennedy did get assassinated. Kennedy, if he would have served 2 terms, would have been in his 50s. How about if he sets out 1 4-year term of a president? Can he run again? Think about that. No one ever has. Is there a law that says you can't, or a constitution or amendment to our Constitution that says you can't come back? Note if someone would like to look that up, they may, but note that most of the presidents that get elected are usually in their 60s, seems like the pattern. Very late 50s, most of the time in the 60s. And you get up and you got health concerns, you got other concerns. Maybe someone just gets worn out. Well, I'm not going to sit out 4 years and then try it again. Now, I don't want to tell you what the answer is. I want you to find out. You want to find out for us next time we meet? If there is a law or anything that you can find, you'll be able to find it quicker by going to. Is it possible for someone to do that? Come back. Or did we have enough of that person? Okay, I'm going to take a poll. How many in here believe down the road we will ever have a lady president? Just purely voted in electoral college. One hand? You really feel that someday we might? In your lifetime? Okay. I'll confess to you. I like some of Sarah Palin's ideas. Um, but, it always seems like when you dig and you find out what there's, not ladies now, but guys too. Um, I always thought at first Obama could be, because I was kind of hoping, we got our first Native American black president ever. And then I got thinking, is that the reason I voted for Obama the first time, but not the second time after everything came out? And, it's going to happen. But what kind of things, what would the country look like if Hillary would have beaten Trump? You only can guess. I think someday it will happen, probably not in my lifetime. I'm hoping in my lifetime we'll see term limits. That's how strong I feel about it for the Congress. Something got to change. So let's start a political movement here. Get out our signs. There's a lot of people that believe that. We'll see what happens. Here's another question. We're done with, but I want to bring this up as a discussion. Okay, our economy was shut down. You guys, some of you got put on furlough, lost your jobs. Some of you are lucky enough, and some people are lucky enough, they got paid for not working in order to stay in the company, let's say. Some didn't. But should have Congress got paid during this complete shutdown? They got their six-figure salaries and health benefits no matter what. And they get them after they leave for life. How many of you have that kind of? I had a job in public education where I got my insurance package for 8 years. Then I was on my own. That's just how our school district in our county, you didn't get paid your salary, but you got to keep your health insurance for that period of time, and then you had to go get your own. I tried to get it to 10 because then I would be at the youngest age you could take out Social Security. Take it out. I took it out early. So I didn't get quite as much as some that waited. But at that time, I didn't think it would be around or there'd be enough money because they've been taking money. There's billions of dollars in the Social Security system, but it's been borrowed from, and it's been changed. But one thing about that, everybody gets a scale of the same pay, depending how many years you put in. Political issues to think about, all of you people on the camera and stuff, think about stuff like that. Especially when you're young, because it's going to affect you sooner or later. And sometimes it's hard to foresee what it will be like by then. All right, I am done for now. What I would like everyone to do is make sure you start, actually on page 88, they take Hamilton's theory, then they take Jefferson's, and then